like I said, whatever work you create, you are putting it out there. It's left to people to find it. And I don't think you can really master how people find it, when they find it, who find, if I found it. Your job is to just put it out there. Nobody's doing these things, but these things are important. People have asked me, can you refer someone to me? I want to see their work. Can you? And I'm like, I know all these people, I can share their contacts with you, but a lot of people don't want to see me sending one person, two people, three people. They want to be basically either hire a team, see people's work, basically just go through that process of like pre-vetting, because also, people who want to hire creatives, they don't necessarily hire creatives immediately they see the work.
Just a quick message before we dive into today's episode. I found something interesting in our data which showed that only about 25% of our viewers are actually subscribed to the channel. If you've been enjoying the content that we're creating, if you've been finding it exciting or learning something new, I have a little favor to ask of you. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, as it goes a long way in helping us deliver more exciting episodes like this. Hi, Femi. Welcome to the Hungry Creative Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mofing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on board to share your journey and your story and how you've evolved. I'm personally excited to have this episode because, I've been looking forward to it. And we're just talking about how, it's taken a lot to get us to have this session, despite all the odds, but we're here and we're going to have this conversation by all means. This conversation will be had. So I'm really excited to hear about your journey. I really love your work. I really love what you're doing, your community project, even your style, your designs, I think there's a way your style just comes across. It's very experimental. It's not boxed in one certain style or expression. You can almost not know what to expect from you. I think that's how I see your work. You ventured into motion, you're doing AI, you're doing typography, you're doing it's all sorts. And you even mentioned doing product design as well, doing like web. So it's like you're just doing whatever you feel like doing, like in that space, which is I find it very adventurous, right? I'll think your style as an adventurous style. So my first question will be, and I'm sure like most of our listeners, they'll be curious to know what is driving this, this creative expression from you. So personally, I'm also curious to know like what are your influences and what's driving your the execution of your work, how you ventured into all these different aspects of design. So would you share, like, how would you even categorize yourself? Are you a graphic designer? Are you a product designer? Or are you an art director? Or what exactly, how will you describe yourself?
Thank you for that. I would say that I'm a creator. Plainly, simply, it's taken me a lot of time to really figure out how to categorize myself. And it is just that I'm a creator because, like you said, I do a lot of different things, from graphic design to illustration to to animation, to motion design, to basically like web development and all that. And I say that because you mentioned that you don't know what to expect from me, and that's because I also see everything. I believe that it's about communication. It should be about what message I want to sort of like pass across, right? So I figured that when you need to use pictures, you need to use pictures. When you need to make, like whimsical, you need to make it whimsical. When you need to make it, like mathematical and elaborate. So it's basically what you need to communicate that calls for the particular approach or style, that you go for. I try to like, just really work with my references. I mean, part of my process, right, is really just trying to figure out what I want to create. I have a mood board for almost everything I want to create. From every single irrelevant poster, I create like mood boards for things I want to post on social media, because it's combining references. It's like, okay, what do I want to say? How can I, use this opportunity to actually create something that nobody else has created, or to say something in a way that nobody else has said it. So That's really how I see my work. I see it as an opportunity to really like, you know, tell whatever story I want to tell, in that particular instance. It's just every brief is different. Everything I want to do is an opportunity to tell that story. So I see myself as a creator. I'm not limited by any particular style or any particular, thing. I mean, yeah, maybe there are constraints in the work, but I just like to communicate what I need to communicate with the work that I do.
Amazing. I mean, that's so evident in your work, and um, so my curiosity actually would go back to your beginnings, right? So from the very beginning, what drew you to design or graphic design? How did you come across, how did you come across design? And what drew you to it? How did you start designing?
So that's also a really, really great question that just floods me back with memories. Um, so how I started designing, I mean, I, I would say that I started out when I picked up the computer.
Mm.
And the first, at least foray into discovering graphic design, it must have been at like my cousin's house when I was about 8.
Mm.
On PC, and PCs then were very rare. It
Yep.
wasn't as popular.
Yep.
People don't have desktop computer that basically had a dial-up internet. So when you need to use the internet, nobody can use the phone, But they had this PC then, and I'll go on holidays, and they on the PC there was this sort of like greeting card maker pre-installed on the PC that you just used to make like use clip art and all that to make greeting cards. So that's my start because I was so obsessed with it. I'll constantly create greeting cards. All of what I do now, this whole process of like experimentation, I
Yeah.
was experimenting. Um,
Seeing.
and it's really, really held my fascination.
Mm.
I think I lost that for a while because when I didn't have the PC, I mean, you can't create graphic design. It's up until like I was in uni and, I saw, the work. A friend of mine, Lola Okunore, just came to the hostel that day and it was like, see, he went for this exhibition. There was an artist, Data Ruwari, who did this sort of pencil drawing. I mean, she basically combines different kind of styles, but she does this pencil art, but she also uses Illustrator. And he showed me her work and said, she used Illustrator. And that night, both of us downloaded Illustrator.
Mad.
We started looking for tutorials. And I guess the rest is history. But that was,
Man.
definitive time I was like, I needed to be able to do this kind of cool stuff because I've always been fascinated with art,
Mm.
and it was just a very new way to create stuff, with just your computer, like no
Mm-hmm.
other raw material,
Yeah.
your computer. So you're not
Exactly.
buying paper,
Mm-hmm.
not buying anything. Sit down behind here, use your brain and see what you can create. And that's always great.
Wow. I think a lot of people also have that similar journey foray into design where maybe it started from like drawing and then discovering software because I remember Nii also said he also discovered software when he was in uni and he was like, what is this? And then there were no like there were not a lot of references or like resources like educational materials like we have now, and you just have to manage. I think we were speaking when we were chatting the other time, you were speaking about how um you have to like download web pages and like read. If you don't follow the steps, you like miss out and you never get it. So just for referencing people that like now, people that just come across design now, they don't understand the struggle, back then to get like good resources or like tutorials. It was like gold then. People used to hoard
Yeah,
tutorials. I remember people used to hoard tutorials. Like you could hardly come across like good, tutorials. So I'm curious, how did you evolve your skill?
I would say it's obsession, and I would say it's over periods of time. So over different obsessed with different kinds of or different like disciplines. Like when I started out, I did a lot of poster work, because a lot of logo work, I did a lot of poster work. There was a point where I was doing party posters for people in my school, for departments and all that. And then at some point, I realized that okay, I could do illustration. and then there was this whole period where I was just like learning illustration. I was developing like, illustrations for like, Nigerian settings. I was just like trying to, represent, illustration in ways that I had not seen before, and so there's something that someone said to me, Christopher Dame, that I really, really, believe, and it makes me also understand my own journey and also like the blueprint of how people can sort of learn anything. And it's that you can learn anything you want, just not all at once, right? What if you want to learn VFX, you want to learn software development, like you can learn it together. You can learn all of it, but you can't learn them at the same time. You have to learn it, master it, or at least learn it to some extent, master it, and then move on. And then you have this lens over time. So I feel like that's really what it is, because I mean, I'm not currently learning graphic design, right? But I still really remember, or I still put that experience that I have to use even when I'm doing motion design. I mean, I look at a couple of things and then I'm like, how did it do it? How would I do it? Because it doesn't matter how they did it. It's just how would I do it? Can I figure out a way to go about this? Even if it might take time, even if it might, are there ways to go about it? And if I feel a challenge, I work towards it. I'll say, okay, you know what? A lot of the things that I'm doing or that I've done even recently or that I do right now, they are also products of things that I've wanted to do. And then I finally figured out a workflow to do it. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? Oh, I'm going to do it. Or maybe if I combine these two workflows, or if I do this, it's possible to do this. So I'll say it's obsession, and I'll say it's giving things time, or giving it time to basically master those obsessions. Or, I mean, master is a relative word, right? Because, well, I think we're all always trying to master.
True.
Right? I've not mastered whatever. I'm still in that process of trying to master. But I would say that, it's giving it time and constantly working on it, constantly practicing. So maybe that's what I mean by mastering. It's really putting yourself to practice.
It does take a lot of time. And, I was asking some of our guests the other time that how many hours, because if you want to put numbers and metrics to it, to also make it, tangible and educational as well, or put like a roadmap or like a pointer for people who are like looking up to someone like you, right? If they ask you now that how many hours do you spend designing, what would you tell them?
I'll say too much. I spend more than needed, more than usual.
So is it that so to be a designer? I have a question. I have a very very curious. I'm sure a lot of people are also curious about this. To be a good designer, what I've observed, right, from the greatest designers, the greatest creatives for that matter, not just designers, is that the obsession and the dedication to creating great work, it oftentimes comes across as it's almost at the detriment of something else in their lives. So like I can give you examples. Like a lot of designers, a lot of creatives are oftentimes introverted or socially awkward, or they just can't function in social environments because it's almost like, okay, you have the tendency to be introverted, then the design life now makes you even more, introverted because you're always designing, always in this your space. And then, as you evolve, then you start to like realize that, oh, see, man, I have to network, oh, I have to build community, I have to go for events. I see that pattern in a lot of creatives' journey. And is this something that is also peculiar to you? Is it also something that you can relate with?
I can relate to it 100%. As a matter of fact, this is so important that I remember most part of this year, I spoke to a lot of creators and a lot of people you wouldn't expect. A lot of people that I see as outgoing, I see them as extroverted, all admit very introverted.
Wow.
Right? And you realize that, we're all beating ourselves up about not being as extrovert. I mean, I feel like it's maybe a type, right? But it's true that a lot of creators are introverted. I don't know why. I don't know if that's what led us to doing this, or if it is doing this that has turned us into that. But I don't know what came first. But I know that a lot of creators are introverted, right? But that knowing that okay, most of us feel this way, I think take away the whole anxiety that we feel. because it's just as everybody feels the same way, right? Everybody feels that way when you want to put your work out there, but still puts it out there because nobody's, other people see it as courage. And I'll say that one insight that also came out of a lot of it this year is that I know a lot of people find it very hard to put themselves out there, but at the very least, let it not stop you from putting your work out there. Because for ages or since time memorial, creators are actually known because of their work. I mean, and I'm not even just saying this in Nigeria, I'm talking about like just generally. You see a lot of movie directors, you don't know what they look like.
That's so profound. I have another question which also ties to this putting your work out there. Nee says something again, once again, right? And I feel like creatives are unique, right? Like once again, we all have, I feel like every single creative, there's something that we have in common, right? Which is maybe how our brain works, right? How we think about things, how we execute ideas, and some of it is also like at the detriment of us. So think of it like this: creatives oftentimes are the biggest critics of themselves, right? So, which is basically how people perceive you, how you perceive yourself, and how people perceive you. So now, there was a part of our conversation where when Nee and I were chatting, and I was talking about rejection, right, or people's perception, or people's feedback, or acceptance, for that matter. We're in a digital age now where your work is at the mercy of the people that see them, at the mercy of the algorithm, if you ask me. You put out a flyer where you're like, man, this is going to bang. And boom, you send it on social media. Crickets. People are like, what's this, man? Move on. And you're like, man, I put so much time into this work. Like, why are we not getting, the engagement? Why are we not commenting? I feel like this is a critical part of the creative life, especially in recent times, where your flyer, your design can go anywhere and people can critique it anyhow they want to critique it. I feel like that's also something that is really crucial in today's design and creative landscape. How have you been able to navigate putting out content constantly? Because I see that you churn out a whole lot of work. How have you been able to navigate managing those things? Because I know you definitely have your own stories to share on that aspect. I don't think anybody's immune from it, even from the right up to the very beginner designer. How have you been able to navigate social media acceptance, algorithm failed, I can't even call them failed because they're not even failed. That's even the
That's the
point.
point.
So how have you been able to,
You're right.
have been able to navigate that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually don't think I do it enough. I don't think I put myself out there enough. And like I said, it's really
Hmm,
a lot of people say, but you put yourself out there a lot. But
hmm,
I think maybe this year, how many posts did I do? I did a very handful. Yeah, it's basically not the same frequency that I've been going. But then again, I know why. There's a lot of things that I've been working on and battling. But I would to answer your question, right? How I basically embrace, putting myself out there when, there's the algorithm, there are people's criticisms and all of that. I would say that I've learned from experience, and anybody can, you know, sort of see this and say it's true, right? Your work, basically, putting your work out there it would allow your work get discovered. It doesn't matter when it gets discovered. I think sometimes very compelled about how things go viral or the fact that you want it to go viral right now, right? But
hmm,
the point is that if you put your work out there, right, people will discover it at some point. They might not discover it at
hmm,
the time, right? I mean, when I check my Pinterest references, the references that I use when I want to create work, I'm sure those guys didn't create it yesterday night, right? Some of them have created it 10 years ago. Some of them have created it 5 years ago. Some of
hmm,
them created it months ago. Some of them just created it. But the point is that I found it. It's to
hmm,
me. I'm using them, right? So some of them might not even know the impact of what they are, how far reaching their work is, right? Because it's
hmm,
not just. I think it's a global issue, right? There are a lot of creators who, it's just really the art of creation, the art of the fact that you created it, and if it's good enough, right, then it's going to stand that test of time. I go
hmm,
through my page every couple of years to like just see like the works that I've done, see if there's anything I need to archive. And I'm always glad when I realize that, okay, this work that I did 10 years ago is still good enough. It's still great,
hmm,
right? So I mean, a lot of people might not have reacted to it then. Maybe some people still don't rate it now, but the fact that I still think that, okay, I see how this work, I didn't, I didn't compromise, on anything, still the standard that I wanted it to be, or at least it still reminds me of the fact that, you know, or it still reminds me of the fact that, this was all of what went into it and it was great. So I think that that's
Mm,
important. But,
mm.
like I said, whatever work you create, you are putting it out there. It's left to people to find it. And I don't think you can really master how people
Absolutely.
find it, when they find it, who find, if
Mm,
I
mm.
found it. Your job is to just put it out there. And
Put it
I
out
mean,
there.
just to close this, whatever again, I would talk about still this virality because there's a particular work that I did of this down football that a lot of people have now sort of like used as references, and sometimes not references. Sometimes you like just steal the work verbatim, right? But you know,
I know that's what I know that's what you were running from.
yeah,
You were trying to okay.
because
Go
yeah,
on.
because I think it's important that we use references, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're using reference, you're meant to sort of like, be inspired.
Give credit.
Yeah, combine it, but not
Mm,
verbatim. Don't
mm,
it's what someone has done,
mm.
doing anything or without bringing anything new. I remember this work that I did then. When I did it, it was
Yeah.
also cricket, right? It was this whole drawing of like a downfall boss. I went to look for the original designs of like the transporter boss, dimensions, all of that, and I tried to create. But every year people steal it, right? Every year people copy it. Every year, I mean, to tell you a fact, as I was coming today, right? As I was coming,
Yeah.
I still saw a banner around 7 Up where the
Oh my goodness.
illustration, they just put it there as part of the elements of the banner illustration. Someone has used
Oh,
Abuja,
wow.
So what I'm saying is that every year it keeps on increasing, right? And
Oh my
I
goodness.
realized that it's because people are finding these references year after year. It's not that it didn't go
Hmm.
viral when I did it. You get what I mean? And
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
sometimes things go viral like that, but it's made me also see that that's also how the internet works. That's how we
Hmm.
cover stuff, So just put your work out there, create stuff, and people find it. So yeah.
Wow, interesting insight there. I think I listened to one of Polashe's sessions where she was like, when she created the identity and the visual system for I think the art gallery is an art gallery in New York. I can't remember the exact name. So I mean, it's a continuous project for her. She's so passionate about it, and she said it's probably not even like the most financially rewarding project, but she's so connected with like it's part of her roots. So when she created this very unique and probably one of the first typography systems where she played with like size. Like the typography was like it was reducing in like the size. Like that's there's that popular where everybody has adopted it now. You see it all over, and then New York adopted it. Like everybody just started doing it, and she was pissed. She was angry. She was like why is it happening? She still says like she's angry about it till today. And when you mentioned that you saw the illustration that you did on a billboard without any credit to you, without referencing that, oh, this is, where we got this inspiration from, or that kind of thing. Whereas like verbatim, like you said, that how do you feel when you see those kind of things? Is it a feeling of pride or is it a feeling of, you know,
I want to be able to have a conversation with these designers and tell them, oh, like just add something to it, be inspired by it. But
mm,
in I guess if that can happen, I also just feel I'm happy that at least my work is being inspired, or people are being inspired by my work. But I still hope
mm,
a lot of people really understand how to take references and use references because
yeah,
it's not even just about graphic design. These references is something, or reference, in your work is something that basically whatever creative profession you are, whether you're a content creator, you're a VFX artist, or you're a cinematographer, you would need to to
hmm,
understand how to combine references, right, to create something.
absolutely.
Also, I think it's just really, you know, knowing how to go about it. You know,
Mm,
gather references. Don't start anything without, you know, a reference. And also don't
Yeah.
try and take any reference verbatim. Try and combine references, right? Put them in front of you. What you
Yeah.
can take from here,
Yeah.
wait and give. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end,
Yeah.
realize that okay, you can take the best parts of your references and discard the parts that are not relevant, and that's how to create
Mm.
a new.
Mm.
Not like
Mm.
you're stealing from the work,
Yeah.
but is also contributing to this work that nobody else has seen, nobody else has been able to create.
Mm.
So I just really think that people, or I really would love if a lot of creators, at least try to attempt this whole process of gathering references and using them, deliberately without, copy. I know there's a lot of copy like an artist. Still, have you still like an artist? Now
Still like an
I,
artist.
I, I don't, I don't, I mean, I don't think so. I think you should
Yeah.
copy references or use references in a
Mm.
allows you to bring something new, but don't steal someone's work. Yeah.
I want you to speak more on how you've been able to apply and learn and get rooted in the foundational aspect of design, which is very, very crucial for every designer.
Yes, thank you for that. I definitely agree. And like I said the other time, I remember, starting out the principles of graphic design. I mean, I didn't even first start out with it because, like I said, when I started out, I was looking at tutorials, I was trying to do illustrations and all that. I was doing logos, but
Mm-hmm.
I realized that for my work to actually like improve, I needed to really figure out, or I needed to like learn, what made like good work stand out. And
Mm.
that was when I started revisiting principles of graphic design. And I remember then that there was this time where, and I mean even till now, you still see it in Nigeria where you see posters or flyers, and you have all
Mm-hmm.
on, right from the title to the address of the address in the UK to the address in Kano to the phone number to 5 phone numbers, like you just bombard you with all the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the at least when I started like delving into those principles, I started creating, or I started putting into practice, and I started creating flyers that would have a main title, and then all the other. So maybe it has like a main catchy heading, right? And then all
Mm.
is smaller, right, or non-existent
Okay.
because it's all you're trying to reel the person in. The person who
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
does not care about your phone number in Kano. They are not going to. They are not interested. So
Yeah.
there's no you reeling them when they don't. It's
Yeah.
just noise, right? So I think
Yeah.
you need to sort of draw their attention, and then someone who is
Mm.
in the caption, right, would want to see more information. So that was part of what part of the experiments that I started putting to use, and I realized that okay, it doesn't just make it look cleaner, nicer, neater, all of that. It also really
Mm-hmm.
gets to the point. It catches people's attention. It allows you to use white space, use illustrations, and that was the beginning of like me trying like now creating things that. So I would say that if you want to, and it doesn't just go for graphic design. I mean, the same principles of design, like I said, that work for poster design and graphic design work for you if you're trying to create like physical products or hardware.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Balance them. So it's important not just for now, but for your evolution in your career. Because like you said, a lot of creators will learn new things. And it's not even a function of, oh, I don't want to learn new things. Sometimes the world will force you to learn new things. Sometimes your career will force you to learn new things. Right. But within this space that we play in, right, it's so important that you understand how to arrange information in a way that people are not bombarded, right, or people are not
Mm. Mm.
or people find the information that they are looking for. I just think it's
Mm.
about organizing information, or maybe that's not the only
Mm.
line, but I see it so much as that. It's this way of, I mean, when I even create reports and designs and posters and all that, right? My job is not to create a deck. My job is to
Mm.
read through the whole information, find out the
Mm.
things that are call outs, the things that are important to bring up, like to expand on, right? And then you're like, okay, this should be an infographic. This should be a chart.
Yeah.
This should be elaborated upon. This should be turned into an
There
illustration
you go.
because it's going to help
Exactly.
explain this text, right? Or it's going to help explain this concept. So I read
Exactly.
is design is a tool. is a tool,
Mm.
but understanding the principles is like understanding how to wield this tool, right? And then being able
Mm.
to use so that people can, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be there when you're not going to be watching someone using your design, right? But
Mm.
understand it well enough to make sure that whatever person comes across your design itself guides them on how to basically
Mm.
go through that process of engaging with what you've created. So, yeah, I think the principles are so important. Even I go back to it every couple of years. I mean, even when I started Cookcards, I personally was teaching all of the people we hired the principles of graphic design so that I could also revisit, make sure that I am refreshing myself and also making sure that these people
Yeah.
that it's very, very important and that they can see it in use in real life. Because when you now start to see, okay, we have two eyes, that's balance. Like imagine if you had one eye,
Mm-hmm.
or imagine if you had an eye on the side of your head. Like, I mean, you get what I mean? Like you see that,
I get what you mean. Yeah.
even life itself sort of presents.
There you go. I was gonna go there where you said, when we were chatting earlier, you said you mimic life, and life is the biggest piece of art
Yes,
that we can reference in anything. Absolutely. Go on, please.
yes. So I mean, I see all of I take everything together, right?
Mm.
My practice, is also a way for me to understand life more. I was talking the other
Mm.
on the kind of work that I create, even now, I know now, even though I started with like editorial, now I'm able to do a lot of things that are so much more complicated, right? I can fit a million elements on a page and
Mm.
a mathematical algorithm to arrange them, right?
Mm.
I can still think of how to, make sure that they are balanced. They are, so it skills, this experience skills
Mm.
with whatever it is you do. Um,
Yeah.
say that the principle of design or the principles of graphic design, it's so fundamental. It's been here since, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
Wow. Thanks so much for elaborating on that. Let's move on to work and collaborations. So I'm going to talk about your community work now, and you are going to talk about your community work, in Lagos Meet, which is an incredible body of work, if you ask me. And I feel like you are one person that I feel like you're so passionate about this thing. Like it shows without you even telling me. I can see how much dedication, even just with this small project that we have in the Hungry Creative Podcast. I can tell how much work it takes to create things like this. So like you taking it to a higher level with Lagos Smith. I went to your website. You are aggregating like creators work, like I go there and I'm like, okay, let me look for someone in art direction, photography, and even like kind of project. What does it take to no, let me not say what does it take. Let me say, how did you begin? How did it begin for you? What is your why? Why are you doing this?
Wow, that's a great question again. Thank you for showing all these good questions. But why am I doing this? I'm doing it only because I've considered the alternative. I don't even want to get very political, but I know that if we don't, nobody's doing these things, but these things are important.
Hmm.
We want to, I've looked at it for years. People have asked me, can you refer someone to me? I want to see their work. Can you? And I'm like, I know all these people, I can share their contacts to you, but a lot of people don't want to see me sending one person, two people, three people. They want to be basically either hire a team, see people's work, basically just go through that process of like pre-vetting because also, you know, people who want to hire creatives, they don't necessarily hire creatives immediately they see the work, right? There's sort of this, just like anything. If you want to buy something, you don't. I mean, yes, there's something to buy spontaneously, right? But there's also like, first of all, like discovering it, you
Mm-hmm.
planning towards it. And I feel like the same thing also goes, right? For any kind of work, freelance creatives, or there is this whole process back end, right? And I know it's because when I try to refer people and also even try and like, work that process out where people are like looking for creatives, I also know that it's not instantaneous, right? There are some, these people would reach out first because they're trying to then figure out how to then engage, or they're trying to raise the money, or they're trying to even understand budgets, right? And I think that that's why the editorial is important. The Lagos Made editorial is important. But to go into why, and maybe this is what I should have started with, right? Just a brief bit of why we are at this point doing what we are doing right now, because it was that we didn't start out doing this. When we started up running Lagos Mates initially, when I think around 2016 thereabouts, it was because I knew a lot of designers, physically, sorry, online, right, by their work, right. So you have Yorks, you have New York, well, you have Leslie, you have Bolanle, all these people, put out amazing work that you're like, how did this person create this? Yeah, and you're like, and you know them by their work, but you don't meet them, you've not met them, you've not seen them, right? So that was what Lagos Mate was. It was like, okay, I know you by your work. How can we physically see, over game, over, play, all of that. And then we added something called an conference, and we still do it till now, where we have a topic, that topic basically is what anybody can discuss it. So we have one moderator. The moderator basically opens up the topic, but anybody can contribute, whether you're starting out or you are like a legend in the industry, whether you have a lot of experience or you're just starting out, whatever, whatever you define yourself to be, there are other people like you. So the point is that, can we all sort of like figure out this conversation? Can we all speak to it? Because when it's not just, oh, you've heard what this person has said, and if you have something to say it.
Yep.
Let it be a debate, right? And then
let it be a discussion.
Yeah, a discussion, exactly. And then you realize that at the end of it, we're all able to live with very, very, just amazing insights that would not otherwise, because it's not really just talking, it's talking, and all the parties, all the stakeholders who should be in that conversation are having that conversation. So, it was very, very, the conversation was very, very robust and rich, and, that was great, for then. But what I also realized was that, we're meeting, to discuss these problems. Well, we ourselves are not doing anything to work on them. We all know this is the issue, but we are just calling for events. And I didn't really feel like that was the best way to at least use all the understanding and the insights that I'd already gathered, and even the relationships that I built. Because, personally, for me to do those kind of events, I have to reach out to people, invite them. So I also feel like I have a responsibility to, also do something about the issues that, we raise and all of that. So that's what sort of like led us into what we do at Lagos Mid right now. When you also look at, what we have in the industry right now and what where we need to be, right? We currently in Nigeria, a lot of, our income, right, comes from oil, and I believe also that, when you look at other countries like India, where they've been able to change their service sector, where you have a lot more people who are like, or a lot of the country or the economy in India, for example, is like contributions to the economy comes from IT. You have a lot of IT companies, a lot of service, technology service companies, that are, yeah. And I see a similar model that can work in Nigeria. And I believe that model can work over time.
Yeah.
And because you already have, is not very hard to become a creator.
Absolutely.
So I believe that the industry can grow. Even looking at all of what's the, all of the economic challenges that we face in Nigeria has kept growing without fund, without support, without institutional support. It has kept growing, and with even more support, it will only keep growing. I believe that with only, us working on these problems, it will only keep growing. So, I really do believe that there is a case where, Nigeria gets to benefit, or the world gets to benefit from Nigerian creativity, and we get paid for it.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's that we want to build a narrative globally, and it's also the reason why, for example, we decided not to change the name from Lagos Meets, because even when we were done, they were like, oh, scale it across different countries, call it different things, from Abuja Meets to Kano Meets to Africa Meets, but I really think that the whole point is that we want to make people understand or impress on the world that real creativity lives in Nigeria, it lives in Lagos, right? When that narrative is able to be propagated, we're all better for it.
Absolutely.
Because any Nigerian, irrespective of where you even are residing, right, you'll see Nigerians as, and is actually even it is building on this narrative that we already have. Nigeria has already been like amazing talents around the
Absolutely.
world, from Corner Boy to Laulu Shibanjo to David Oku to all these guys who have made their mark.
Yeah.
And these are even people who are doing it individually, right? Who are doing it by the work that they do, or by they've created a narrative for Nigeria because of they've contributed into their own craft,
Absolutely.
right? So I think that if we're deliberate about building a narrative or building this perception for creativity outside of Nollywood, outside of music, outside of fashion, but by looking at all of us as creators, right? The fact that if you're thinking of creativity, talk to a Nigerian. Like, Nigerians are actually really creative. So, we're still working out the kinks of making sure that, yes, we started out with showcasing talented Nigerian creators, because I think that's where we need to start from.
Yeah.
If you want to show the work, there's no point in saying these people are good, right? Let the work speak for
exactly.
So instead of, we have great VFX artists, we have great whatever, just show them their portfolios, let them see the work for themselves.
True.
So that's what we're doing, right?
Wow.
I think that has really resonated with a lot of people, because a lot of people who are also looking to have, they just need to see the work, and then they're like, you know what, I mean, these people are really good, right? How can we start? That's all. So that's where we are right now, but we're still going to take it further to making sure that we can actually drive real opportunities from in markets to these Nigerian creators.
My question would be, if you were to have a session, if you were to have a sit down with any major stakeholder in the Nigerian government, or people that make these decisions, or people that empower industries, creative industries, like the design industry, for example, what would be your ask?
Well, my ask would be the same ask as every creator, that at least has, because we have all these polls and surveys and stuff asking people what the problem is, how they could be better with support. And the number one problem, or the number one thing people always allude to, is support, right? Financial support. The government has said that the creative industry itself in Nigeria is sort of categorized as informal sector, right? So when you go to the bank and you say you're looking for a loan, it's the same category they will give you as they will give a market woman who maybe is trying to sell pepper. Like, you're not very, and I'm not saying that it's just that.
No. I completely understand what you're saying. Completely get it.
The industry has changed. I mean, it's very, very different looking at the industry like 10, 20 years ago. And I don't think that up with what is possible for people to even be able to do. I mean, literally, 3D artists can recreate reality. Whatever it is, imagine, or whatever it is that you see is made, or it's three-dimensional, right? A very talented artist can recreate whatever you see. And imagine you have that kind of ability and you still can't, get some kind of support to start your company, or to basically scale your efforts, right? So I really think that at the very, a lot of us bootstrap. A lot of what we do is maybe coming back from, jobs we're working, or, other ways we're able to make money to then fund our, our business actions that we have. But I think the government could play, a much more significant role. I know there's been a lot of around, but I mean, the money hasn't really gone around. It hasn't gone to people in, our industry, that I'll say. And also another thing I need to say, because I also discovered this, I think 2 years ago, when I went for this conference, where I was invited for this conference. And I also realized that even within the creative sector, all of what we do, because imagine they invited me for a conference, and I realized that we're not, all of us in our industry, we're not categorized in the conference, right? And when I say all of us in our industry, what I mean is that, so they call the creative industries film, fashion, music, and I think arts. And they're complaining about the fact that, the industry itself was not receiving enough support. And I'm just like, you people are complaining about receiving support, but we are clearly
in
not
the
even
landscape, like we're not even in the landscape.
So these are the issues, right?
These are the issues. These are the issues.
I think we contribute a lot, right?
Yeah.
yeah, a bulk of what we do drives like outcomes, real tangible outcomes that businesses need from it on a day to day, that both business Nigeria and outside the world, outside the country need, and I really just can't understand how, we don't get enough support. And I know that we've done all of this, all of what we've done, without this support. If more support is only going to lead to more, things that we're able to achieve. You get what I mean? So
imagine having a system that recognizes these people and puts them on the map like you're doing. More of things like this, aggregating this work. Something like a Behance for Africa, which is what you're doing.
I think that it's not even just because what we're doing is great, but I still think that even this whole graphic design is a relatively new concept, right? You didn't before you had computers. So there was no industry, right? Till computers came, right? I was talking about how it was very hard for me to get my hand on a PC. I mean, how would you industry when other people don't have PCs, right? So because we are starting from a place where the industry started forming, right? We are in this process of developing our industry, right? We still need a bunch of institutions. I mean, and that's why I love what you're doing, because this is needed. I mean, imagine having an industry where you don't have, an avenue where you can have conversations like this, right? Something will be missing, right? I don't think everybody themselves, but I think that a lot more people need to take action, right? And actually do, because there's a lot of gaps, right? That, if, someone sort of stood up and said, this thing that, let's say, and that's why I also love what these guys are doing, creative notes, right? Because you need that. You need to basically be able to carry news of what is going on within the industry and say, you know what, this is happening, that is happening. For other industries, say marketing, the marketing industry, they have Marketing Edge, they have all these publications that basically carry for the industry. For print, you have the same. For, but you realize that you have some of these things that are gaps that we don't yet have.
Yeah.
But it's by people sort of starting companies, starting organizations, grooming people, and basically, us now sort of working in alliances with people who have. That's how we grow the industry. Nobody will build the industry themselves. And I don't think there's any industry that was built by one organization or one person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's how I would say, if this is a charge, it should be a charge to basically, step up, do whatever you think needs to be done, and that you're well positioned to do. Call people together, bring a community doesn't have to be 100 people. A community can be you and a couple of people who decide that, this problem that's a community.
True.
So yeah.
True. So true. So profound. It doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It doesn't have to be 100 people. It can just be a few people, just with similar vision and mindset or goal, and just working in that direction. And this takes me to collaboration, which once again is another issue in the industry. And I feel like some industries have started hacking it. Right? I think the music industry has absolutely hacked it. We have more collaborations than singles these days. Or even the artists that say, I'm only doing single. Look at Ruga, Buju and Ruga, for example, Benson and Ruga. They were always at loggerheads with each other on Twitter, like fighting, I'm the best writer, you are the best writer. And at some point they realized, man, see, we are both good actually, like it's just these guys that are fans that are trying to put us against each other. Let's do work together, especially after what happened to them. Both of them got kicked off their record label, or they left their record labels and they became solo artists. Like they started doing their own thing, and they realized that, see, man, for us to actually move faster, we need to work together. And they put out that EP, and boy, that body of work was better than anything they had done individually together. That is an example of collaboration. So I feel like, and this is something that Nii Okewo also spoke about collaboration as well. Collaborating more. You see Nii partnering with, Tife the illustrator, doing work with, even music artists, like, having like like an understanding. You made an example of how, the Weeknd's album, you see how this thing comes out. Like, it's always more is more robust. Nick doesn't have illustration skills, for example, right? He doesn't draw illustrations. He has someone like Tife, the illustrator, to help him with illustrations. They come together and they create great work. Some of the things that the projects that they've done, if it was just Nick saying, oh, now I don't want to spend money, I've been paid this amount. I don't want to, I want to, I have plans for this money, I have a project or I have my rent or something. It will limit the extent or the it will limit the how far or how well that project could come across or will be done, right? So I feel like collaboration is another big thing that also the industry needs to do better. And from us chatting, you mentioned partnering with organizations like Adobe, doing it, Dribble, and so I want you to speak on how the experience of working with those brands and what led to even them discovering your brand and your work, and how it has evolved on not how it has evolved, how it has the impact of having those collaborations on the creative landscape.
Okay. Let me talk about one particular case study,
Okay.
and that would be the challenge that we had last year, which was so we put together this challenge for the 3D billboard. Alpha and Jam
Okay.
is an outdoor company. So I remember Ife Aminu messaged me when we were trying to work. So there was a branding collective, and Ife Aminu was part of the branding collective. We're working towards the branding for Lagos Meet last year. And then she messaged me, I was like, you know what? I have this, for Lagos Meet, we need billboards. We are speaking about billboards. How can we put our work on this billboard that Alpha and Jam just launched? And like I said, they launched the first 3D billboard in Africa. Now, but Jam, they are good friends of Lagos Meet, right?
Okay.
They've supported us from the very first Lagos Meet we've done, and they've supported us up to 4 times, 4 different events,
Nice.
over time. So I reached out to Sam. I was like, I mean, congrats on your billboard. We really love to work with you guys to put something on the billboard. And I was like, you know what? I have an issue I would like you guys to work on. They just installed the billboard. They were trying to get the thing with the billboard is that it's a 3D billboard, but it's really about perspective. It's 2D, right?
Yeah. It's just illusion.
Yeah, when you look at it from an angle,
Yeah.
it looks like 3D,
Yeah.
right? So before then, they had given out some artists who gave them work, but it was very 2D looking.
Okay.
It wasn't 3D.
Yeah.
They have the perspective,
Yeah.
and this is not just refer someone to. This is a skill gap. So we're like, you know what? I told him, let's put together a challenge, right? Let's call for, because I know people are in Nigeria who can do this. I mean, yes, it might not be incentive for you to have found them, right? But, then he just paid, I think, a couple of thousands of dollars. I didn't want to mention the amount to, right? Who basically gave him a template. They gave these guys this job, paid them a couple of thousands of dollars in China to create this billboard. And all they did was to basically resize it, right? But they used it to launch, right?
Okay.
And then we were like, right? How about us, getting really talented people to create stuff for this billboard? By the way, the billboard is at Muritala Mohammed Airport, MM2.
Okay.
So we put together the challenge. We called together Unreal Engine, right? Because I wanted to make sure that people who entered into the challenge knew that it required like really, really amazing skill sets. Because Unreal Engine is they have the best, I think, in my own opinion, the best, tool to basically create ultra realistic graphics. So some of them were ultra realistic. I mean, right now, people create stuff in Unreal Engine that is indistinguishable from reality, right?
Yep.
Imagine, is this real or is this not real? So that's what Unreal Engine do. So bringing them into the campaign, I feel like that was a signal to anybody who was entering that, see, we are calling for the best of the best, right? So we raised $6,000 actually, that we put towards prizes, so it was calling together all these partners, from Alpha and Jam who had the problem, right? So bringing up Unreal Engine, to bringing Meta on board, to bringing Lagos State Culture on board, because Lagos State Culture, they were able to also bring the story. So it was create a 15-second story on this 3D billboard, inspired by all the stories, all the references, all the, monuments and all these things that the Lagos State Council and Culture organization had. And they do a repository of, just information. So we brought all of that, put together a portal. People were able to be inspired with us. And then we also, Unreal Engine also gave us one of their partners, Green Rain, who basically, had this 3 months or I think no 2 months intensive training, right?
Okay.
For anyone,
Really?
for about 200 designers, 200 designers who some of
Wow.
them did not even they had no background in 3D design before then, but taking them from zero skill sets to
Hmm.
being able to create 3D billboard,
Yeah.
right? And at the end of the day, we
Wow.
had about 30 entries,
Wow.
but what the outcome was, and what the most significant outcome was for me was that, first of all, Alpha and Jam, instead of paying all the thousands of dollars that they normally pay to these guys outside the country, now they have a pool of people, right? So I'm not by a very high measure, because you can't even compare like a lot of the works that people submitted. I mean, it's very different from you seeing a lion just roaring on the billboard, from you having someone rolling tire on. When I went to actually capture the 3D billboard, at the venue, because when it was running, I was so fascinated. I wanted to go there and see it in action, right? And I saw these military guys just opposite the billboard, and they're like, "Oh, why are you here? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, we're capturing the billboard." And they're like, "Oh, why?" And I was like, "We're running the campaign." And they're like, "Are you serious? You mean this amazing graphics that keeps showing every couple of seconds?" Because then you need to know that they still had some bad 2D designs that were showing. So every
Okay.
couple of seconds, you have this amazing story just play on the billboard. And these
Okay.
guys were like, so, so they were so fascinated by, they were
Wow.
just like, okay, Nigerians created this. And I was explaining to them, and we had a,
Wow. See?
right?
You
Oh,
see?
yeah.
It's to that
So
it's
I
to
was,
that it's to that average person till until that average person, that average Nigerian recognizes work that Nigerians did, are like, this can be a Nigerian, because we do think like, oh, if you see great work, maybe it's imported, maybe it's from out there. Yeah, but go on. Yeah, that makes a
no,
lot of sense.
yeah, and it just was just stories of. I mean, there was this one that I really loved that Franklin did, Franklin Fache,
Mm.
where this of this road safety guys. I mean, you know how road safety guys are always chasing buses in Lagos, right? He was chasing the bus driver, and the bus driver was trying to navigate, in this 3D billboard, and he
Wow.
couldn't do that to fly. So he flew up
Wow.
the last man guy, and the guy jumped, and he brought the guy out, because the thing is also about illusion. That for me, for example, was a very great way to collaborate, because it wasn't just us collaborating with people. I mean, designers. When I also interviewed some of them, I realized that many people spent, tons of hours. I didn't know how much time people spent in creating some of those works till I spoke to some
Oh
of them.
yeah, it definitely takes more time, man.
Months we had to travel and meet ourselves in this place and do this, and spent 2 weeks living together so we could do this. And
What?
I'm like, but I'm just really glad that that kind of outcome come out, and
That is impact. That is
yeah.
impact right there. The second part of this episode will be released in a week. So stay tuned, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all then. Thank you so much.